Hello everyone, my presentation is on emotionally disturbed disorders and we'll just get started with the background. So this disorder is known as unclaimed students. This is because it's really hard to classify students, and we'll go into that later, but just for now to know that it's hard to classify students, so they are known as the unclaimed students. African American males from a low socioeconomic status are more likely to be diagnosed with ED. And Eli Bauer created the federal definition 50 years ago. And this happened with his work in the 50s and 60s. He was doing research in schools to help teachers come up with a solution with children who were having behavior issues. So through his work, he was able to come up with the federal definition that is still used today. Also, it is best to classify students with ED as early as possible because this helps teachers and faculty best serve the student as early as possible. So detection, although it is so important to classify a student early, especially with ED, it is on average, this disability is on average detected 1 year later than the detection of other disability categories. So, for example, let's say a student with autism may be diagnosed in kindergarten, but most students with ED would be diagnosed in first grade. So there's that 1 year gap that makes it hard for the student to receive early intervention services because there is this gap in detection. So the federal definition has this was created by Eli Bauer, like I stated before, and it was enacted in 1975. It's the same one we use today, as I stated earlier, and the only thing that's different with it is that the terms marked degree, over an extended period of time, and adversely affects were added to the definition. And at first, Bauer was seen as a pioneer for doing all of this work, and this was the first time ED was ever discussed, so he was more of a pioneer. But now the federal definition today is scrutinized because it hasn't been changed, and it is very hard to classify a student under these terms. So we'll go through the definition, and I will show you how it is a little bit more complicated to classify a student. So, one or more of the following characteristics over a long period of time and to a marked degree adversely affects educational performance. An inability to build or maintain satisfactory interpersonal relationships with peers and teachers. So this would include physical or verbal aggression when others approach him, a lack of affect or disorganized, distorted emotions towards others, demands for constant attention from others, and withdrawal from all social interactions. Inappropriate types of behavior or feelings under normal circumstances. So they don't have a lot of self-control. They get very angry easily. They have the low frustration tolerance. They might overreact to a situation. They don't have a lot of planning or premeditation. They just do it, very spontaneous. They have a limited ability to predict consequences of the behavior. So before they act, they're not really thinking about what's going to happen to them after they go through with this action. They have rapid changes in the behavior, so a student might be fine and then might all of a sudden just go into one of the following or one of the above situations. And antisocial behaviors, this is more of the students who are sitting by themselves. They don't want to be with anybody else. Excessive dependencies and over closeness and or appropriate rebellion and defiance. This is especially true with authority figures. They like to rebel against authority. And they have low self-esteem or distorted self-concepts. So these are just, not every student will fall into every category, but this is just what can be seen under inappropriate types of behaviors, feelings under normal circumstances. A general pervasive mood of unhappiness or of depression and a tendency to develop symptoms of fears associated with personnel or school problems. A problem with this definition is that the duration is not specified. It just says several months. So right here is an issue where it's hard to classify a student because several months can mean 3 to one person and 5 to a next. So if a student in kindergarten comes in with signs of emotional disturbance, they might wait 3 months or they might wait 5 months and they're not getting diagnosed until February. And that's a long time for a student to be waiting, even teachers to be waiting for classification and special services. Also, a marked degree. It's hard to understand what that means, but it's regarding severity of the condition. It must be significant and apparent, and behaviors and emotions need to be more severe and frequent. So people who are observing the situation will look at a student and see, they will compare how a student reacts who is not being looked at to be classified. So for example, a general education student will be compared to this student to see if students at this grade level should be reacting to a certain situation in this way. So behaviors and emotions must be severe and frequent, and it just has to be more severe. So it's just a little blurry on what this actually means for people who are classifying students. Defining features of ED, there are two main groups of behaviors that can be seen through students with ED. So there's externalizing behaviors and internalizing behaviors. Externalizing behaviors are usually found in younger students. They show aggression, acting out and fighting, disruption, hyperactivity, which means short attention spans, impulsiveness, and immaturity. And the immaturity is more towards if the behavior is appropriate for their age group. So are they crying when they shouldn't be crying? Are they having temper tantrums in 5th grade? Are they having poor coping skills? Stuff like that. And internalizing behaviors, this is a smaller group of the ED population. It's only 7%, and it is usually found in older students. Students who do experience internalizing behaviors will experience depression, socially withdrawn, obsessive compulsive behaviors, select mutism, and they are generally seen to be absent norm, and this is due to the anxiety and the depression that they may be feeling. One more thing on the externalizing and internalizing behaviors. Girls and Caucasian students seem to have a higher level of internalized behavior. However, there is high levels of comorbidity. So you will see a lot of students have both externalizing and internalizing behaviors. The incidence is high, but not too high. So in 2010, 397,000 students receiving special ed services were under ED classification. However, this only represents less than 1% of students nationally. And in 2006-2007, it was found that 7% of students receiving special education services fall in the ED category. So of all of the special ed students nationally, 7% are labeled ED. But many researchers have said that this number is an underestimation because there are students who are not identified as special ed, but maybe should be, and this is due to that lack of clarity in the definition. So, excuse me, it is believed that 110 to 150 students of every 1,000 students are not identified, which is a shocking number, and this shows that there is a need for a change in the definition. The specific emotional disturbances that fall into this category is anxiety disorders, bipolar disorder, conduct disorder, schizophrenia, eating disorders, oppositional defiant disorder, and depression. There are others, but these are some main ones that you will find under an ED classification. And the manifestation in the educational realm, it's very hard for a student with ED to be in a classroom if they are not providing service, if there aren't services being provided to them. Students function about 2 grade levels below their own, and this can be due to anxiety. If a student has anxiety, they might not be able to attend school because of their fear of the school, and they will have a hard time listening and learning in the school when they are there because of that constant anxiety that's overwhelming them. Some students lack social skills needed for the school success as well, so a lot of kids do have fun coming to school because they're with their friends, but if you don't have that social aspect, it can be harder for a student to be able to come to school. Students may be sitting alone during lunch because they're socially withdrawn. Students may be seen fighting more than other students, which is that external behavior that you could find within the student. And students may not be able to concentrate on a lesson without causing a disruption. Students may also get angry at a simple direction from the teacher. So without knowing what this ED classification is on a student, or understanding how to deal with a student who may potentially have this disorder, teachers won't know how to react in a situation when a student gets angry, or they're sitting by themselves and they don't want to talk to anyone, or they may not be talking at all. So this is how it manifests in the educational realm. Strategies for support and assistance. Positively stated expectations is very important because students with ED, as I said earlier, rebel against authority. So instead of saying, don't call out, it is better to say, please raise your hand when you have something to say. And it's good to maximize the structure and predictability of a school day. So getting into a routine that will help students predict what's going to happen next. So first we do morning meeting, then we do math, science, lunch. And also creating a transition routine is also helpful because transitions are usually not structured, which is why chaos is usually happening during the transition periods. So coming up with the transition routine, like Red Table can clean up and get online, or some other routine that will help the student know what the expectations are and how to follow them out. It's also very important for an ED student to be recognized when they do display the appropriate behavior. So immediately recognize when a student has done something good. So for example, Logan, I like the way you use your words to describe how you are feeling. So Logan may be a student with an ED classification who pushes and shoves when he gets angry. And it's important for you to tell Logan that he did a good job by using his words and also explaining what the good job was. So not just, Logan, good job, I really like what you did there with Adam. Say, be specific in what he did correct so that he knows for next time. It's also good to use rewards, behavior contracts, or token economies, which is saying if he's good for a certain amount of time, you'll move his token to another spot, and when he has all of his tokens on a board, then he can get a reward. And this ties into the positive behavioral support, which is also known as PBS. So this is basically saying, I will reward you with 5 minutes of free time if you are able to participate appropriately in the next 4 assignments. And I can just draw you something that I have seen in my school that works a lot. On Valentine's Day, we had a student who was classified as ED, and in order for him to participate in school, we drew these hearts. And he said, since it's Valentine's Day, if you participate in the next 3 activities, we'll color it in. So when he finished the first activity, we let him color in the heart. And when he got all 3 hearts colored in, he was able to get 5 minutes of block time. So that's just a way to use PBS when working with students with ED, and then it gives them something to work on. So that's my presentation on emotionally disturbed disorders. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new. Thanks.